All right, so today I'm so excited to be joined by Owen Leaman. I've known Owen for a few years, and I thought he had an inspiring story about his own journey into learning Salesforce and landing a job in the ecosystem. And so, Owen, first off, how are you doing today?
Yeah, doing great. Just trying to survive this COVID mess that we're all in right now. So
Yes.
working from home, and obviously Salesforce is a platform you get to work from home. So it works out great for, this career choice for sure.
Awesome. So I guess you're gainfully employed and you've stayed gainfully employed even during this quarantine time. And I remember before you landed your first Salesforce job, I'm thinking back several years ago when you approached me about wanting to learn Salesforce. What was the instigation or what was the inspiration behind that? Why did you decide that you wanted to learn Salesforce?
Yeah, no. So to be honest, I was in college. I was a college student for about 2 years. I was never a great student, and I always knew I liked to work with my hands. I like to build things. Like I have a couple family members that like work in the construction industry. So I always loved it. I've always been doing it. I wouldn't say like I'm a master craftsman in any sense of the form, but I know my way around a hammer or whatnot. So it's weird because when I started looking into Salesforce, when I approached you, Salesforce, in my head at least, allows you to like build tools inside essentially of like an organization, a platform. It just helps you build, right? So right away, my interest was piqued. I saw a process builder, and I was like looking at like basically looks like Lego blocks. You kind of like put in like, hey, this should go here, and then if this happens, do this, right? So it really struck my interest just because like you literally are building something. Maybe not like with your hands per se. I mean, I guess with your keyboard, right? So you're using your hands, but yeah, I mean, that's really what got my interest. Like, hey, I'm not a great student. And honestly, whatever I'm going to do out of this, I probably won't use my degree anyways. So why not do something that's like a relevant career today, and that's definitely a growing industry. So that's why I got into it. It just made sense for what I liked.
Okay. And so at the time, what was your major in college?
I think so. I went to a community college, and my major or my degree I was getting there was literally a degree to basically transfer into a bachelor's degree, essentially like a 4-year degree. So it was like a basic science, and then with a something to transfer. It
Okay.
wasn't like
You
a
were getting the
real.
fundamentals. You were getting the fundamentals out of the way.
Exactly. I was basically knocking out all my prereqs. Yep.
There you go. There you go. All right. So, yeah, the memory I have of you is someone that was really determined to make this happen, and I talked to a lot of people either online or in my personal life about Salesforce and this career path. A lot of those individuals have a lot of doubts and like, oh, I'm too old or I'm too young or I'm not technical enough. What were some of the doubts that were going through your mind when you were going down this path early?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely had. It's the first time I heard it was from you, the imposter syndrome, I guess. I definitely had that. I never grew up like on the computer really. I was more like, I'd play sports with my brother and on teams and stuff like that. I play video games, but like other than that, that's like the only time I spent in front of a TV or screen or, computer or whatnot. So I definitely had like, can I really do something in technology? Can I, really, go into a business and, pick up that kind of technical ability, right? And Salesforce is a platform that makes it so easy for you to learn, and obviously like your courses make it just even easier to learn on top of that. Between like your courses and Trailhead, you really do get like real life experience, and you like understand like business process a lot better. Like how is Salesforce like actually used? That was a big one for me, is like, how does Salesforce actually get used by a company? Like, what does the end user see? Like, why do they even need it, right? So like learning that gave me confidence to go into an interview and talk like, from experience, and say, hey, this is what I've seen from, whether it's a nonprofit or just my own sandbox. Like in the very early stages, I made a sandbox, and I'm big into fantasy football, and I made like the draft order, and I put all the players in there and like made all the teams. And, basically just playing around with like that, right? And I could speak to real world experiences from that, right? Even though it's something that doesn't apply to many businesses, obviously. So that's how I was able to overcome that. But yeah, I definitely had, hey, is really people going to take me seriously? Like, how am I going to get into this industry? Stuff like that, for sure.
Okay. So from the time that you started down the path of learning Salesforce to your first interview, how long was that? And did you have any certifications at that point? Or did you interview even before you had your first certification?
Yeah. So I was kind of in a lucky situation. My sister, she actually worked for a mortgage company, and she was like a quasi Salesforce admin, kind of one of those people that kind of fell into the role, but wasn't all the way in, just kind of like tinkering with it. She asked her manager, who was the Salesforce, VP at the time, hey, like, can Owen have an internship essentially in Salesforce? And he said yes. So basically, they made an internship for me to do Salesforce, and that was I think like 2 or 3 months into my studying. So I was brand new. Like, I can make a custom field. Like, I knew enough to like really mess things up, but not enough to like do a good job. So they took a chance on me there. And then like to get my actual first interview after that, the internship really helped me like land like an actual like salary job right in the Salesforce industry. After that, it was probably, I was only at the internship for like 3 months or 2 months, maybe, honestly, even. So I think total, like 6 months from studying to starting my first, salary job. And at the time, I did not have a certification. And I actually was able to kind of leverage that into a raise. Like on the front end of the interview, I was like, I don't have any certification, so basically pay me less. But then once I get it, can we talk about, maybe adding more to the salary, right?
Okay, great. So the inroads was your sister, the internship. That internship, was that unpaid or was that paid?
It was paid, but honestly, I was living with my parents at the time. I would have taken unpaid for sure.
Okay,
I
right,
just would have worked night times.
right. I see a lot of people that are hesitant to give their time away or to do something for free. And there's opportunities that arise for volunteer opportunities. And I kind of get the word out to my own personal network. And a lot of times it's crickets out there. And I see others that have made it to the other side of paid positions, and they try to tell those individuals, hey, this is like gold here. This is a golden opportunity. Give away a little time. And in your situation, it was probably a low paid internship or a moderately paid, but you would have done it for free to get that experience, to, it sounds like, in order to have something then on the resume, right?
Oh, definitely. I would have, I would have been happy to work, part-time at a restaurant. And at the time I did work part-time at a restaurant. I actually put my 2 weeks in because it was paid. But in my head, I was full gung ho, like I'll work weekends and, do internship during the weekday. So
Okay.
for sure.
Okay.
And then also, through like kind of adding to that point, I was always under the impression, like, if somebody has a question in Salesforce, like, you kind of put your name out there on LinkedIn and stuff like that. And like, people maybe that work for companies that use Salesforce, I would always throw my name in the bucket and be like, hey, whoever the CRM person over there wants to talk to me, I'm happy to talk for free, happy to do some stuff for free. Like, obviously, right? That way you kind of get in the industry, you get to know people, stuff like that. So, and that's, I learned that all, obviously through your courses and stuff like that. So.
Awesome. Well, I mean, I think you're a good example of someone that just puts this into practice as far as being willing to volunteer, being willing to just raise your hand, fight against imposter syndrome. So at some point, you started going down the path of interviewing for Salesforce jobs while being a college student. At some point, you made the decision. I know your history, but can you share with the audience how you decided to go ahead and perhaps take a gap year or pause on college and just pursue a Salesforce career? Tell us about how that played out.
Yeah, no, for sure. So yeah, no, like you said, I was in my second year at community college. So I was like right at the place where, basically you graduate from the community college and go to like a 4-year college, right? And I think halfway through that semester was like the point where you don't really get your money back and you don't get the credits either, right? I actually was offered that salary job at the mortgage company, my first job in Salesforce. And so, it was a tough decision because obviously you can't work well, you can, but not with the hours I was going to school, right? I had to basically decide, okay, do I drop out of college for, a gap year? Do I kind of just wait until I can go back and do night classes? Do I just skip do I forego the job completely? So it was definitely a tough decision, but, after thinking about it, the salary of the job kind of made sense to where, honestly, if I would have finished college anyways, I probably would have made the exact same or less than what I would have made at this first job. So in my head, somewhat of an easy decision for me. I really wanted to. For my parents, it wasn't the easiest decision for them. But I think all in all, we made the right decision to kind of take the job, drop out for now, and then have a plan to go back, do some night classes, stuff like that. So I actually enrolled last semester to take some night classes. So I think I start up, next semester here. So
Okay.
yeah,
That's the thing about college. It will always be there. You can go back to it, and
they'll always take your money.
right. They're always open for business. Right, exactly. Even during quarantine, they're getting into the space of remote learning. It's really interesting, and this is kind of an aside, but how with quarantine and schools closing down and doing remote learning, what used to be, they used to say, oh, the college experience and being on campus and being around the instructors and all that. Now they're having to do the opposite and actually agree that online learning can be quite effective as well. They'll revert back to, there is a material difference once things open back up, but it's an interesting time. So that's cool though, that you're going back and working towards finishing the degree. And we had to, as a parent myself of my son, Anthony, when he was finishing up high school, we collectively determined it may be best for him, given his skill set, to take a gap year, study towards getting certified, and to see if he can launch a career in the ecosystem. So it sounds like, how many years ago was that first job with a mortgage company?
2016. So like 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, time flies. I remember it like it was
Yeah.
yesterday.
No, I know it's crazy. It's been a long time in the Salesforce ecosystem. So happy to be
You're a grizzled veteran now, so that's pretty cool.
in the
So,
Salesforce world. I am a veteran, which is very surprising.
right, yeah. A veteran and you're young, unlike me. So, but that first job though, that was a remote job for you, wasn't it? I remember, was that like up in Michigan and you're in Tennessee or something like that?
Yeah. No, that first job was in Kalamazoo, Michigan. So
Okay.
I traveled up there roughly like once a month, once every 2 months, and then a lot of that job was actually training the end user as well. So we bought like a third party app called Jungo, and we had that. And so basically, a lot of the configuration was done. We had customizations obviously here and there, but a lot of the job was just training. So I was like this 19, 20-year-old going into these offices where, the loan officer, like the average age, like by definition is like, somewhere like above 50, right? So like I was like this 20-year-old walking into these offices, trying to train these people on how to use Salesforce. Like, it's like the future of technology, stuff like that. A lot of the times didn't go exactly the way I wanted, but I learned so much through that. Like just how to talk to people, how to understand like pain points, and then once you understand the pain point, how to, fix it with Salesforce, or I guess make it more efficient, right? So learned a lot. Very thankful for, my managers there, all the loan officers there I got to train. So.
Right. Yeah, I think that interaction with the actual end users is instrumental, because we as builders on the platform can be guilty of kind of being up in an ivory tower and just kind of bestowing on the world our creation, thinking that it's great, but kind of wanting that layer of protection of not hearing how it's not so great, and having to figure out ways to improve what you're doing, less clicks, easier interface, stuff like that. And then it's interesting to me as well that you had at that young age the opportunity to do some teaching and training as well. Where I'm going with this is that you're thinking about, or I guess you're working on a Salesforce course of your own. And I guess to kind of cue this up or to speak to this, is that Owen has more certifications than I do. So how many certifications do you have, Owen?
I have 8 right now.
You have 8.
Yep.
So, but in that list, though, Community Cloud is one that you're looking at creating a course for.
Yep.
And do you do a lot of Community Cloud work now?
Yeah. So I have been fortunate enough to be able to build like, I would say 3 or 4 communities by now, which is rare in the Salesforce world. I feel like a lot of people don't get to have Community Cloud experience. It's almost like, I think it's because like the reason people don't get to have that experience is, with like Sales Cloud or Service Cloud, you have Trailhead, you can spin up an org and you can kind of get this stuff for free. Community Cloud is a little more difficult to get your hands on and like get like, real experience with it. Same with Pardot. It's just kind of difficult to I don't think Salesforce even gives you a way to have a sandbox at Pardot, right? So I've been fortunate enough to be able to build a couple of those, couple for like, nurses to log in and, log cases for when they admit a patient, when they, and then for, a large like partnership with a, company to basically run people through a credit approval process, stuff like that. So a couple of different use cases there, but yeah, no, definitely have my, fair share of communities for sure.
Awesome. So, Owen, you landed a job, decided to push pause on college, worked remotely for a mortgage company. And so since then, I know you've worked for like a Salesforce partner company. Can you kind of give me the high level overview of the different pit stops you've made along the way in your career path and what you're doing?
Yeah, no, for sure. So yeah, no, like you said, I work for a mortgage company. I've had a lot of experience with like finance companies so far. So I work for a like corporate payments company as well, slash fuel card for the trucking industry. And then my next pit stop after that was a consulting role for about a year and a half at like a small boutique firm here in Nashville. And then my current role, I'm at Built Technologies here in Nashville. I've converted into like part-time sales operations and part-time Salesforce administration product ownership. So we're trying to build that out over there and, make sure it's working for them.
So, and you mentioned financial services. What other industries have you been involved in related to Salesforce?
Yeah, so I've been in the mortgage industry. I work for, like you said, like corporate payments slash fuel card industry for like a Fortune 500 company here in Brentwood, Tennessee. And then I currently work in a like a fintech company. Basically, we're streamlining the way that like construction finances flow through like construction projects. So just like right now there's a whole lot of different parties involved, and we basically made a platform that all can converge and kind of just like make that process a lot more simple. So
awesome. Okay. So it's fascinating to me, and it may be fascinating to others, how here we have a young man with some college who has had the opportunity to work remotely and on site some. You're remote today because of COVID-19 quarantine. Are you working on site now or remote or travel, or what's your arrangement like now?
yeah, so yeah, like you said, I'm obviously at home right now because of COVID, but right now I'm full-time in the office when this thing isn't around. So my day-to-day is usually in the office. Not a lot of travel with this job. My last job, rarely traveled for the consulting job. And then like I said, my very first job at the mortgage company, that was like twice a month. So.
Okay. So I see that in your career path that you started in financial services and then you started to get experience in other industries as well. And I think that's what's so powerful about the Salesforce platform. And this is more for others that are maybe newer in the journey, is that a lot of times you've got to take what you can get and get that experience, especially if you are just out of college or just out of high school. If you're younger and you don't have the business experience, just get what you can, and then you can start to get a little more picky as you get more experience. And so Owen here is going on 5 years on the platform and has remained employed this whole time. Now, I know it can be challenging for many to land that first job without experience. And so, and I recall back to earlier in our conversation here today that you mentioned that you actually made an app related to fantasy football. Mm-hmm. So, were there any other apps that you built as far as a portfolio?
Yeah, so we, it never was used for the purposes of like why I built it, but I built an app essentially for like my parents' real estate company. I kind of like showed them like what they could be doing and kind of like how Salesforce could work for them. They ended up going a different direction with it, but yeah, no, I mean, I was always in like sandboxes, just playing with process builder, workflows, making fields, objects, stuff like that. But specifically the fantasy football kind of app I made, and then one for like a real estate kind of company. So
Okay. Yeah. And what I refer to that as, or what I commonly refer to that is making your own experience. And you could think of it as like making a portfolio. And Owen, you did that as far as creating things that may or may not have seen the light of day, but that experience helped you to, one, understand the platform, and two, it gave you stories to share in the interview room. Now, did you talk about building the app for your parents or even the fantasy football app in your job interviews?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, I had nothing else to talk about. So I had to talk about something. Yeah, no, I definitely talked about, I did have the internship I could talk about a little bit, but again, I was only there for 2 to 3 months. Um, so I had to talk about something. And I definitely talked about, getting in there and just figuring things out for myself, talking to my parents about, hey, what could you guys use? And obviously thinking of my own ideas of like, hey, how could I benefit from having, all these players and teams inside of Salesforce? Like what kind of analytics can I have on that? So yeah, no, I mean, I definitely talked about that stuff.
Excellent. Yeah, just taking that initiative to build an app, whether it's a real one or not, whether it'll make money or not, it may lead to a job because it gives you a story to share. And you don't want to answer with the sound of crickets in the background whenever someone asks you, what's the most complex thing you've ever done on the platform? You need to be able to say, well, I was tasked with doing this or doing that. I think another valuable lesson we can learn from Owen is that he surveyed his surroundings and saw indeed that his parents owned a real estate company. And here is theoretically how they could benefit from using Salesforce. Now, they did go another direction, but that doesn't matter. It's your job here is, and your interest is in launching your own career. So it's not trying to sell Salesforce on a company, but if you have friends or family or people that you know that have a business, is taking that initiative to try to build something for them. So excellent job, Owen, with just putting this into practice. And so what's next for you? What's the next challenge that you're going, what's the next Everest you're going to climb?
So like you referred to, I definitely want to make a community cloud, like Udemy course, kind of following your footsteps with that one. So hopefully I can get that out in the next couple months here, and then I'll be at Build Technologies for a while. I just started a couple months ago, and I'm really liking it so far. So,
All right. So thank you so much, Owen. I enjoyed our talk today, and good luck. And I look forward to seeing what courses you create.
yeah, no, thank you, Mike. And again, everybody, I recommend Mike for any kind of classes, especially when it comes to Salesforce. But follow him; he is the best. He's the man. He is. I basically can attribute every dollar I've made to Mike Wheeler. So follow his footsteps, and you will do great.
Thanks, Owen.